Welcome to Palmyra Grace Church's Sermon of the Week. At Palmyra Grace Church, our purpose is to help people pursue a life with God together on mission. To that end, our hope is that each Sunday message influences your Monday and every day of the week. For more information about Palmyra Grace Church, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or find us at palmyragrace.org. Now here's this week's Sermon of the Week.
Welcome. Will you turn your Bibles to Matthew 5:5? It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first four books of the New Testament. The first of 27. 39 in the Old Testament. 66 altogether. Matthew 5:5. It'll be about 3 years this summer that I prayed a wild, crazy prayer. If you know anything about my personality, I am crazy. My nickname is Trouble. Everywhere as I go, it just follows me. I have that personality. And I prayed a prayer 3 years ago that God would send me one person out of the, 5 to 7 billion people in this world. I'm praying that God would send me one person that I did not know, that I could just love into the kingdom of heaven. Make no bones about it. I just want to love someone in the kingdom of heaven. I want some excitement in my spiritual life. I don't care how young you are, or if you're the oldest person here, that prayer will be answered and changed. I don't care if you're locked into a home somewhere. God will bring you one person to love in the kingdom of heaven. And God did that to me. Within 2 months, I met someone freshly out of prison. He was just out of prison for 2 months, and I have never really met anyone out of prison. And I discovered something. Getting out of prison is not easy. The people are extremely needy. So when he was out of prison, he really didn't have a place to go. He lived with his father, which wasn't a very good situation, but he didn't have clothes. He didn't have a job. You know how hard it is to get a job when you get out of prison? People will not hire you if you have a record. They have some places that might, some might not. He needed boots. We bought him boots. He didn't have any transportation. So we got him a bike. We just poured out love to him. My wife and I gave him love. When it came time to eat, we brought him to our house, put him at the table and eat. If he needed a place to sleep, he came in our extra bedroom, slept a couple of days. I mean, it was very interesting. It came to a point where he needed a job more than where he was working. He was cleaning floors at Giant at nighttime, but there wasn't enough money there, but he could walk to work. So we're like, why don't you get a job that pays you more? So we got him a job at a second chance factory. They would hire people from prison. And he literally, we brought him to get his resume and all that, and application filled out. I mean, he didn't have a car. I had to bring him. He had to take a drug test and everything. I had to bring him from that. It's kind of like a teenager in your house without a car. You been there before? You're going to be there real fast, Pastor Dan. 2 girls. Have fun. See, I'm old. I know how to get to him. Right? So, we decided when he got the job, which was 4 miles from his house, that he needed transportation. He had to be at work at 6. Guess what time I had to get up to get him to work? 5. I mean, watch out what you pray for. But would you do that for your own child? I would. I did. So I did it for him. That got old real fast. The best thing about a 15-year-old is they turn 16 and they can get their own license. Yes, been there before. This person did not have a license, so we decided to get his license for him. Now, we didn't realize that he had all these fines. He lost his license because of DWI. He lost his license because of speeding tickets. He had thousands of dollars of fines on his license. So it wasn't that easy. And once you pay all those fines off, then you got to get a new license, and that wasn't cheap either. So we made a deal with them that if you show up and help me with my hobby, if you probably really don't know, but I build houses as a hobby. I literally build these mansions. My last house was 5,500 square feet. And the first floor is 2,500 square feet. My wife designs them, I build them. It takes me anywhere from 2 to 5 years. It's just what I do on the side as when I get bored. So I build houses. But I brought this person with me and said, I'll pay you $20 an hour if you just work off this debt for this license. He says, you got a deal. So Saturdays and Sundays and times where he wasn't working his other job, he would come over and work off his $20 an hour, and he got halfway to paying off his fines. Then he said, hey, I'll make a deal with you. Why don't you go ahead and pay the other half, then I can get my license, and you don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to take me to work. Good deal, right? So we wrote all the checks. Everything was going real well until the next Saturday morning. Guess who was a no-show? My friend. No-show. Now, being a godly man and teaching and all that, that doesn't bother me a bit, right? Oh, you understand then. You're wise. Guess what happened the next Saturday morning? He got up real early after a night of partying and showed up to work. Wrong. While the 30th Saturday morning row, I was a tad bit upset. So I knew where he lived because I helped pay for the rent and the down payment because they have nothing. I mean, if you're really going to love someone, you got to put everything out there, right? And I show up, says, you going to show the work up today? Are you going to show the work today? And he says, no. Are you going to show up to work next weekend? He goes, no. Are you going to pay off this debt? No. I looked at him and says, can I have the license back since half of it's mine? And he said, no. Then he grinned. Have you ever had a child grin at you before with that grin? Oh, look at that. Yes, squeeze that neck. Oh. I was angry. Just a little bit. I'll wait until later to tell you what I said because I don't want you to shut me off. It wasn't polite. I'm glad I wasn't carrying that day. Seriously. But think about it. I was angry, confused, and highly offended because he conned my wife and me, talked us into it. So I originally said no, and she said no, but he made it sound nice. And I started to trust him. So he didn't show up. Here I am, trying to do something good, trying to love someone into the kingdom of heaven, and I find myself in this chaotic mess. But does God bless in chaos? Does he have beatitudes in all chaotic situations? Oh, yes. Now, how do you respond when someone cons you? Thank you. What's your name? Do you squeeze necks? Is that your daughter? Has she ever squeezed your neck? Think about it. How do you respond? I mean, how should we respond to this guy? I know how I would respond. I get my Facebook account out, and I would delete him literally out of my account. Oh, before I would delete him, you know what I would do? I would write a post. Is that what they call it? I don't know, teenagers. Is that what they call it? It's out of my league. I got gray hair. I don't even know what that stuff is anymore. I have a Facebook account. I would write out what kind of, type of person this is and just spread it on the internet and stay away from him. Don't hire him. We used to call that gossip, right? We don't call it gossip anymore. We call it social media, right? There's nothing wrong with social media, but is that how you treat people? Or you could do what we used to do. We would cancel them out, beat them up, get a group of people over there, beat them out, cancel them out, take them out of your phone bank, take them out of everything, and never talk to them again the rest of your life. You could do that. It's not like I've never done that before. And I know here people who have social media would never do that, especially the older people, because you're wise. And you're a model to our young students on Facebook, right? You would never do that. Or you can do what I want to do, count them back. Why not teach them a lesson? Isn't that part of being a good parent, a good person, is to teach your children lessons? Just give it back to them. Or you can act religious. You ever done that before? You know what the Pharisees would do? You know this weird cereal that I brought out last year, this cheap stuff, this $1.99 from Wegmans? I can act like a Pharisee. I could just condemn them. I can throw something at them, stone them to death, and get them out of my life, and just focus on their sin and curse that sin and that person. Or I can act like a good little Sadducee. You know what the Sadducees do? Oh, there's no sin in the world, just love, love, love. We need a little more peace in America and a little bit more love, and we'll be in good shape. But meanwhile, the sin is destroying a life. So which side do you take? Or I could be a Esteen. What's the Esteens do? They separate. Hey, you got to separate from this person because they're going to bring you down. I've actually had people tell me that. You can't love this person. You can't have this person in your house. He's going to bring you down. No, he's not. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm secure in his love. No one's going to take that away. Or I can be this zealot from Wegmans. You don't even care. Whatever you're doing, you're activist, and you're on your little holy hill somewhere. And if we just had a Christian king or a Christian queen or a Christian president, none of this would matter. But that's not reality. How we respond to an offense or to a hurt is what Jesus calls meekness. Now, I would love to do a poll here for anyone under 25. Have you ever heard the word meek before? Because you just don't hear it in our culture anymore. For you who are over 55, we've heard it. We were taught it. It's a different culture. We heard it in our schools. And how we respond to being offended was there. But Jesus responded to every offense and every hurt with a spirit of meekness. Matthew 5:5. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. When Jesus was hurt, and he was, did he this? No. Did he want to? He could bring down the heavens. Or did he show a spirit of meekness? When Jesus was highly offended, how did he respond? He responded with a heart of meekness. So, let's go to Matthew 5:5. Let's look at the word blessed. Let's look at the word meek. Let's look at the word inheritance and see the power we have as believers in our Fruit Loops box and respond that way. Matthew 5:5. Blessed. We've studied the last 3 weeks. Blessed literally means living in the happiness of God. When you become a believer in Jesus Christ, he rebirths your heart, and there is his spirit in your heart, and in your heart is a happiness. No matter what happens to you in life, the ups and downs, the deaths, whatever you go through, there still is a happiness there. And you live in that bliss as a believer. I define it as living with God on your side. Is it not nice to know that God's on your side no matter where you are in life? No matter what stage you are in life. And as I get older, I need God on my side more and more. Something about old age. You wait, Dan, as you lose your hair, and at least I have hair, okay? As you lose your hair, you're going to realize that these Fruit Loops are going to be eaten a lot more. See, he started, right? Is that a meekful spirit? And trouble. But what is meek? Meek is being humble and gentle. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. Blessed what? Are the poor in spirit, a humble spirit, and a gentle spirit. This is where it's the killer. Without an ounce of revenge. Not even a thought of revenge. Do we live in a culture where everything is revenge? Will anyone forgive anyone in our culture anymore? They're bringing up sins that are 500 years old, and we didn't exist 500 years ago. It's crazy. Can someone, one leader in America, please show a little meekness without any revenge, for no power or nothing? So someone hurts you, you cannot have a thought of revenge. Oh, I hate that. Because you know what my first thought is? Curse them out. Whack them. That's how I was raised. I wasn't raised in the church. If someone offended you and they kept it up, you took them behind the barn. Well, we didn't have a barn, we had a shed, and we taught them lessons. And they never touched us again. Today, they would probably throw you in jail for that. Different culture. But meekness, the divine meekness in simple terms, is you have a power that's under control of grace. Jesus had a power. No matter what happened to him, it was always under control with gentleness and grace. And you're not weak if you're a meek person. You are a strong, mighty, power from Christ if you are a meek person. A power to say the right words at the right time without revenge. Is a salt and a light in a world that desperately needs it. And that's who we are. Think about it. It's crazy, but it's true. And if you live this meek spirit in this power, what will you inherit? Oh, wait a second, you will inherit something? Is that a promise? You will inherit land, the earth. Wait a second, we're being taught in this world that the earth's going away. The earth is in 10 years' time, we're not going to have an earth, right? Wait a second. You can believe that science. But Jesus' promise is he's coming back with a new heaven and a new earth. And we're going to be part of that because we have a spirit of meekness. And that meekness means literally you will inherit land. So on this new earth, somehow I'm getting a piece of land. And I'm building a house bigger than 5,000 square feet. And I'm decorating it the way I want it, Sharon, my wife. And you can have your own, and Jesus can build that for you. I don't know how all this means. I'm just kidding there. But I know we're going to have land. In a Jewish culture, what did land mean? Everything. Because it was a promise from God. It was their wealth. It was their goal. It's how they lived. Is that not an awesome future? And to be honest with you, we are tasting that some today. People who live meek, kind lives are blessed in our nation amazingly. I look at my friend. He's alcoholic, drugs, and gambling, and he has addiction to ladies. He's proud of it. But he has no land, nothing in his name. And I look at my life after Jesus Christ. Can you imagine a 5,000 square foot house on a golf course? And to walk up it, I laugh every day. I did this. But that's because God's blessed us with meekness. And what I love about every one of these Beatitudes that we're studying, every Beatitude, all 8 of them, are modeled by Jesus Christ throughout the Scriptures. Every page in the Gospel, you can see a Beatitude in the heart of Jesus. And if we turn to John 8:2, we can see how Jesus was meek. So when you turn your Bibles to John 8:2, I'm going to spend the rest of my time. I've been told I got until 12:30. What time do I have? Huh? See, you're all going to be meek to me if I go to 12:30, right? You on the cable, you can just turn me off if you want. Just hit. No, you can't hit. That would be revenge, so you can't hit stop. That would be mean. Look at John, Gospel of John 8:2. At dawn, he, this is Jesus, appeared again in the temple courts. Jesus is right outside the Holy of Holies. He's out there in the foyers. The real teaching is out there after church. That spirit of teaching, fellowship, he's there. He appeared in the temple courts with all the people gathered around him. He just shows up and people gather around him. Isn't that amazing? And he sat down to teach them. For some reason, Jesus loved to sit down when he taught. I don't know why. When we get to heaven, we can ask. Verse 3, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. The teachers of the law were scribes and Pharisees. They pretty much copied the Old Testament. That's all they did. They were scribes. They were these guys here, the Pharisees. Cheap religion, right? Not willing to pay the full price. Not willing to pay $3.49. And the difference between religion and Christianity, religion, you have your own set of rules. Christianity, you have to sacrifice everything for Jesus. There's a big difference. This one costs more. It's not your will, but God's will. Here, you can do pretty much what you want, make your own rules. And this is what we're going to see here. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in who? A woman. Caught in what? Adultery. Let me define adultery. It is a sin in God's eyes. It is when a man or a woman sleeps with another man or woman, and one of them are in a marriage. In other words, if you have a couple that's married, a man and a woman, and the woman leaves and sleeps with a guy, that's adultery outside of marriage. It's that simple. And she's caught in that sin. My question is, where's the man? Ladies, would this not offend you? Thank you. So we see some offense here, right? You think Jesus is thinking that? A little bit? Where's the man? They made her stand before the group. Ooh, could you imagine me bringing a woman caught in adultery, stand her up here in front of you? Would anyone here be offended? A little bit? I think Jesus is a little bit offended. But they challenged Jesus in verse 4 and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Verse 5, in the law, Moses commands us to stone such women. And, there's no man there, right? See, the Pharisees had their own interpretation of a verse in the Old Testament. They had half of it right. If someone was caught in adultery, if you caught someone in adultery, you were responsible to take them to the community square and be the first person to throw a stone. Literally, you pick up a big stone and you dump it on them because you saw the sin, and this sin was highly offensive to God, highly offensive to the community in which they lived in, and you would pick up the stone and be the first one to throw it. Then the rest of the community would pick up stones until you crushed that person died. But it was both women and men there. And if you saw the sin, you cast the first stone. That's how the Israelites lived. Would you commit adultery with that type of consequence? Or would you think twice? Oh, you would think more than twice. But it happened. So these leaders just bring the ladies. They have nothing to do with the men. I wonder why. See, they have a heart of condemning people because of the sin. Now, what do you say, Jesus? Verse 6, they were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. Is that offensive to Jesus? Especially when we know throughout the gospel he loved the sinner. He loved those who were broken. He loved the one person I prayed to come into my life. He loved people like that. He gave them special attention. He saw their brokenness. He was hurt and he was offended. And look at his response in verse 6. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. Isn't that weird? It's like me. You bring someone a challenge to me and I don't even pay attention to you. I turn here and write something down on the table. Isn't that rude? No, I think it's smart because you know what he did not do? He didn't open up his mouth. He didn't say anything. What would happen to our marriages? What would happen between our relationships with our children and our parents, especially if parents took 10 seconds before they said anything when one of their kids offended them? Or what would happen to our young ladies or our young guys if they would take 10 seconds when mom and dad offended them and realize that mom and dad's not perfect? Someone might even have the nickname as Trouble. Jesus says nothing in an offensive situation. And have you ever wished that you said nothing in a highly offensive situation? I do, because you know what I said to my friend after he conned me? I didn't squeeze his neck, but I just did something worse. I called him scum and a con man and turned around and walked away. I don't know if I should finish preaching. That was my attitude. Was that a spirit of meekness? Ever been there before? Wish you would take 10 seconds. Can I encourage you? This is what my wife does with Facebook. I always want to make a post, write something down. You know what she says? Don't do it, Dave. She's my 10-second rule. Because she knows with my personality, I'm going to set the world on fire. I'd be trending half the world of one thing I would say. So she is my 10-second rule. Dave, say nothing. Dave, say nothing. Dave, say nothing. So I never post anymore. I'm still on Facebook. I have no problems with it, because I like to see how life is going with my friends. But man, it's turned into a cesspool of what? Hatred. Nothing wrong with it, my friends, but learn how to use it with a 10-second rule. Mom and dads, teach that to your children. Don't run from it. Social media is the reality of life. But teach them how to use it with wisdom. And maybe it's a 20-second rule. Maybe it's a 24-hour rule. Whatever it is, say nothing in your first response. Because, you know, if you take a second and say nothing in an emotional situation, what's going to happen? The Spirit's going to speak to you. And you will have a power underneath control of grace. If you just give the Spirit 10 seconds. For me, it's probably 24 hours. Because it takes me 24 hours to get over the anger. And you would think after 30 years of being a Christian, I would have matured in this area. But it's no different today than it was 30 years ago. The only difference is this is more important to me. But the first response is always, oh, shoot him. Take him to square and stone him. It's just my first response. Take him behind the shed and beat him up. That's my first, because that's what I was taught as a child. But look at Jesus' second response in verse 7. When they kept on questioning, you know, as Christians, we have a power underneath control of grace, and we cannot stand around and say nothing when someone keeps on mocking, when someone keeps on questioning us. Is that not the power we have? So we have to learn to say it in the right way through the power of God. because they kept on questioning Jesus. Come on, Jesus, you're God here. You're a Christian here. You should have the answer here. And we do have the answers. So don't run from it. He straightened up and said to them, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone. Okay, here's this lady. There are two people here who can throw the first stone. Number one, Jesus was without sin. So really, he's the only person who can throw the first stone. But the second person, the person who brought the lady who caught her in adultery, could throw a stone biblically, but not according to Jesus' question here. That person's not here because he would have threw the first stone. That's the challenge that they're giving Jesus. And Jesus has a response. And what is the response? You go ahead and throw the first stone. So take that 10 seconds and put in your brain and say, hey, can I throw the first word here? Have I ever offended someone with the wrong word? Yep, I have. So I can't throw the first word. I have the big mouth disease. I speak before I think. I lived in a family that you were taught, if you didn't say it to the person's face, don't say it at all. Don't think it. Say it. And my father can't wonder why none of his kids get along. I wasn't raised in a Christian family. We just said it like it was. Could you imagine being married to me? But what does Jesus do with that question? Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. Simple, wise statement. And again, what does he do? He starts writing on the ground. He just comes over here and doesn't pay attention to anyone and writes on the ground. Wow. One of the best things about being a Christian is the day you became a Christian, God drives you to a place of power. When I first became a Christian, my family persecuted me awful because I was set free from drinking, and they were partiers. I mean, my last drink was the day I was saved. It's a miracle. It's just, wow. But they mocked me and they laughed at me, and it drove me to a place. It was a baseball park at nighttime. I didn't want to pray at home because if they saw me praying, the torture would be awful. So I found a place, and I have found a place every day since. Oh, I'll miss one, maybe one. My wife won't let me go to my place on Christmas morning. My place is McDonald's. I go every morning I possibly can get up. If I have to go to work at 5 o'clock or if I have to be somewhere at 6 o'clock, I get up an hour earlier. It takes that much time for me. I made those sacrifices years ago, and I am so glad because this has been my life. And in my place, I met a God who took dreams away. And in my place, I met a God who will comfort me through a lot of pain and injuries. I'm a miracle to be walking and standing here. Someday I'll share that story with you. And it was only God. But you know how hard it is to go to your place the next morning after you call someone con man and scum? I go to my place and I start complaining to God. God, this is not right. I asked for one person. You send me a guy that takes advantage of me like that. What kind of God are you? And there's something about your place where God speaks to you in all your stupidity and everything that's going in your mind. He can settle you down and His Spirit can speak to you. And you who know your place know what I'm saying. And if you don't know it, figure it out before you go anywhere in this world. Take these years and figure it out. Because there's a power there. And I went to my place, and God intervened in my complaining and said, Dave, I send you one person in this world to love, and you call him a con man and scum? What kind of love is that? Oh, mercy. I wish I would have, what? Shut my mouth and asked the question, have I ever conned anyone? Not me. Why do you think my name's Trouble? Oh, but I didn't feel like God was beating me over the head with a bat. You know what he did? He took my bad attitude and gave me a new attitude of love for someone. You know what he did? He opened up my Fruit Loops, and he gave me one. I needed one. I probably should have got another box. And he gave me a Fruit Loop. I'm not saying what I did was wrong. It was wrong. And God dealt with my attitude, changed my attitude. But you know what he did to me? He empowered me again just to love my one again. Because you know, I've conned someone before. I've done things to people, and I surely cannot cast the first stone. What would have happened to America if our politicians stopped casting stones upon each other? Our politicians use hate, bitterness to divide us. Do they not? For power, for money, for gain. They're imperfect people canceling out imperfect people. What is that? Hypocrisy. It's everywhere. Don't go there. It's not who we are as Christians. And it's sad to watch, but it's been like that for years. What would happen if our leaders, if just one leader from any party, you realize we have Republicans and Democrats throughout the whole church in America, and that's good. Don't you realize we have to love each other here in heaven? Because when we get to heaven, we're going to have to love them there too. And we're going to have to love them here. Why not practice it here? Stop condemning. It's okay to be different. That's the power of America. That's the power of the church. But we got imperfect people canceling imperfect people, and vice versa on all sides. And not one of them have the courage to say, "Can I throw the first stone?" And they fire up hatred. And that's not who we are, especially as Christians. So before you say it, before you post it, before you think it, can you throw the first stone? I know I can't. But the best is yet to come. That's what's so awesome about Jesus' teaching. Verse 9, at this, those who heard him began to go away one at a time. That Jesus condemned them. No, he doesn't. He challenges them. He could have condemned them, but he does not. He could have brought that Bible verse in, but he does not. Isn't that amazing? One at a time. The oldest ones first until only Jesus was left. Who could throw the first stone? Just Jesus. With the woman still standing there, Jesus straightens up and asked her, does Jesus speak to sin? You bet. And should Christians speak to sin with a spirit of meekness? You bet. It's who we are. In a culture who anything goes. In churches that anything goes. But we still are called to be like Jesus, and there's a right spirit to speak against sin. It's called meekness. It's called a power under control of grace. Women, where are they? Has no one condemned you? Not one of them. No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I. Wow. Jesus is not going to throw the rock. Why? Because he is a God of grace. There is a day of a judgment coming, but it's not now. We are in a time of grace. Neither do I condemn you, declared Jesus. But does he challenge her? Don't condemn someone because of sin, but challenge them. And how does he challenge them? Go now and leave your life of what? Sin. There's no hope in committing these sins. There's no life. There's no anchor there. Leave it. Wow. The third response, simple words have the power to change lives when said in what? Meekness. And the best way for me to explain this is to explain a story. God gave me a new attitude after I cursed out, and that's what I did. I cursed out someone I prayed into my life. It's pretty immature. I don't recommend it because your place will be a boring place the next morning until you confess. I'm good at screwing up. That's just me. Hopefully you guys are wiser than I am, and maybe when I get to be 80, I'll learn these principles more. But God gave me a new heart that morning for the same person I prayed, that one person. And it's been interesting. You know, his life hasn't changed any, but I have. I call him up, have him over my house for dinner. You got to. I have to love him. There's just something about me that I have to love him. And when I get depressed of loving him, I just eat another Fruit Loop. Just get high on sugar. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. You know, he needed some cash. So I had him over to the house, and he worked it off, and I gave him cash. And I didn't say anything about the debt he owed me. That was tough, because I would not let my kids do that. But maybe I made some mistake with my kids, and I needed to learn. When it's time to play golf, he'll call me. I'll go with him. He can't play golf without getting drunk, but I'm still there. I'm not tempted by alcohol anymore because of the blood of Jesus. When it's time to play golf, he's a mocker, and he likes to mock me because I'm really bad at golf. I got a Charles Barkley swing. I have broken back, so I can't bend certain ways. I think I'm worse than Charles Barkley. For you who don't know that, he has the worst swing in golf. And when you see it, you laugh your head off, even if you're not a golfer. And he laughs too. And they actually have him doing commercials of how to swing a golf club. It's cool. Well, one time, he was mocking me. Dave, I'm taking you down today. I'm going to wipe you off this course. And I'm thinking, oh, I am tired of this. Now, I better take 10 seconds and say nothing. You know what I did? I prayed, God, just once, give me victory over this guy. I dare you, if you golf with me, please mock me, please. You know what happened? First hole, I parred it. I've done that before. The second hole, I parred it. I have never done that before. The third hole, I parred it, and my son who was with me was going, Dad, what's wrong with you? The fourth hole, I parred it. And my son says, okay, Dad, I know something's up. What happened? He says, this guy was mocking me early, and I did the David Goliath thing. Why should I let this pagan mock me? And I prayed that God do something to my golf. Just one day in my life, please. And it's been the only day. Ask Dan. It's been the only day. And my son, 19-year-old son, looked at me and gave me that Josh grin, because he knows when God's working in my life, he can see it. He says, you must have prayed really well, because I've never seen you get 4 pars before. I said, well, I never had 4 pars in a whole game. I got 4 in a row. This is cool. Meanwhile, the guy that's mocked me on the 4th hole hit it in the tree and thought he could hit it through the tree 4 times, and he missed all 4 times. I'm 10 strokes up on the 4th hole. I'm praying, thank you, Jesus, this is cool. And he doesn't even know what's going on until the 9th hole. He says, why can't I beat you? I looked at him and said, you can't beat me today. Because I prayed that God will give me victory today. That he's a real God. And I prayed that you would come in my life 3 years ago, and you can do anything you want to me. Just go ahead, it doesn't bother me. And I'm still going to love you. And I also looked at him and says, you know, I see your life as sin. Are you not tired of getting drunk every night? Are you not tired of drugs? Are you not tired of taking all your cash and putting it in a gambling machine? I mean, how many more ladies will you sleep with? Are you not tired of this lifestyle? And I am here to challenge you to walk away from this lifestyle to the kingdom of God. And he heard every word. Is he there yet? No. But is there a love of meekness in those words? There are. And that's who we are as believers in the power of God.
Thanks for joining us for this Sermon of the Week. If you found this sermon helpful, please share it with a friend in person or on social media. Let us know you were here by going to palmyragrace.org/I-was-here. You can also sign up for our news and events at palmyragrace.org/resources. We hope God spoke to you today and that you can share His good news with someone this week.